Okay, welcome back to the next part of the video. In the last video we had a really silly failure. Once we got our vessel underway, we got up to... everything was coming along really well, but when the first stage ended, there's a really good chance that you'll have a failure when you start the second stage unless your ship is just like rock solid stable. And I think you basically have to hit kill rotate and wait a few seconds for the ship to stabilize. Otherwise it will pretty much fail every time. But anyway, I just reset the scenario. We're just going to get going again right away. Everything is all set up and good to go. So we're just going to get things underway. Let me switch over to eject orientation and go down to a medium setting. That way I can adjust this as we take off here. So we're going to press G to remove the service tower. And that just takes a few seconds. And there's the service tower removed, so we're ready to go. It's going to be full power on the main engines. And this time we're taking off basically upside down, and our heading is showing initially 300. So we'll do our roll maneuver here to get basically upside down. Although I don't think it matters in the Falcon vessel. I think you can be right side up. We'll just kind of put in a little bit of a pitch just to get ourselves to the other side of 90. And now we start yawing the vessel in order to get our heading where it needs to be. And at the same time that I'm yawing, I'm also putting in a bit of roll to keep the vessel from kind of flipping over. And we want about 92 degrees, about right there. Relative inclination coming down. And we'll kind of start our gravity turn, if you want to call it that. Where I basically just put in just enough pitch to try to make the vessel fall at the same rate. Or rather, I should say, so the vessel will pitch over at the same rate that the velocity vector is kind of going down. But I may have to speed that up a little bit. Ideally, though, this should fall at the same rate as the, as you pitch over. But because it takes me a while to get around to my heading, I can't always do a gravity turn or a gravity pitch. In fact, I usually can't, and right now I'm actually just trying to speed up the pitch over a little bit because we're already at 35, almost 40 kilometers. Okay, everything's still looking good otherwise. We are, relative inclination's coming down. I could do a bit of an adjustment here. Go down to a fine setting. Apoapsis is showing 130. We're already at 60 kilometers. Let's speed up our pitch a little bit more. That's probably more than enough, so let's back off the pitch so we're not pitching down so quickly. Take a quick look outside. We missed the separation of the boosters again. Of course, when I say we, I mean me, but the reason I often say we is because we're all in this flight together, me and the viewers. Apoapsis 177 going up. Vertical speed 1,000 meters a second. Currently, Apoapsis time to Apoapsis 117. We could actually probably should speed up our relative inclination declination a little bit. Let's get that around a little bit. So Probably need a little bit of yaw this way. Yep, that's coming down more quickly now. Okay, apoapsis is 203, still climbing. Vertical speed 900 meters a second. Relative inclination 0.8, coming down. Things are looking pretty good again. Falcon Heavy doing its job. Let's just hope it doesn't blow up again. Apoapsis, unfortunately, is already up to 232. It's pretty difficult to get the exact altitude you want on these manual launches. At least it's not difficult with the like XR2, but these vertical launches I don't have as much luck hitting the target altitude that I want. Almost to the end of the first stage here. And I typically find what it's best to do when you get near the end of the first stage is to basically kill rotate right before the stage ends. Let me put in just a tad bit of yaw here because we're relative inclination's coming down pretty quickly. A little bit more yaw. Yep, that's too much. Go with that. Okay, now right before the stage ends, kill rotate. It's really stupid that you have to do this, in my opinion. Okay, that stage is ended. So it should be separating now. It is. Give it a little bit of time to separate. Hit kill rotate again, and now just one small click of the engine, and there we go, we got it this time. It's really, really picky. So now we'll bring up full power on the second stage. Relative inclination 0.2. So we should probably put in a bit of yaw to speed that up a little bit. Let's first do a bit of an adjustment there. Okay, there it is, coming down a little more quickly now. Let's go level. We're quite a bit past our target. Apoapsis missed it by an embarrassingly large amount. A bit more yaw for the relative inclination. Go with that. Things are looking pretty good. We got a vertical speed of 340, and it's dropping. Apoapsis, time to apoapsis 95 seconds and going down. I think what we can do is we'll make an adjustment here to our PE distance. So instead of 6571, we'll put it at 6671, because that's going to be more. It's going to be closer to what we're actually going to be at. Actually more like 691. back to eject orientation. Quick adjustment here. Coming down very quickly now, so we want to start yawing back the other way. Okay, time to apoapsis 70 seconds. Let's pitch down a bit more. Quick adjustment. It's getting very sensitive now, so let's bring it down to ultra. Put in a little bit of yaw the other way to slow down the rate at which the relative inclination is going down. Time to apoapsis 65 seconds. Vertical speed 100 meters a second. Let's go level with the horizon. Let's take a look outside. Curious what this looks like on the attachment part. Yeah. Okay, relative inclination 0.27, still counting down. I should say 0.02. And we could probably put in just a little bit of yaw the other way because we're almost at orbital velocity. Okay, in fact, let's slow down the main engine. Okay, we're going to bring our PEA all the way up to, you know, nice circular orbit, basically. And we'll go with that. That gives us a apoapsis of 368, almost 370, which is quite a bit higher than we initially planned for. But if we don't stop the main engine now, then it'll just keep climbing. Alright, so take a sip of water and think here for a moment. Let me close out this MFD. Now remember, we need to switch vessels, but before we do that we need to save the scenario, and we need to bring this plan back over to the XR2. Again, I just don't know how to do that by using the inherit option. If you come back to this stage you can inherit plans, but I simply don't know how to make that work. I've tried many times and I just can't figure it out. So we'll save right here so we don't break anything. Control S. Now we'll just exit out. And we'll bring that scenario, cut and paste it. Rename it 05. Ride to orbit complete. And we need to edit that scenario real quick. There's a couple things we can do in addition to changing this line. The SpaceX add-on has a massive tendency to crash. I found in my other flights, and you might remember from my Dragon to the moon that I did, that if I delete the junk stuff out of the scenario file, it's far less likely to crash. In fact, once you get all the SpaceX stuff out of this scenario, it won't crash. Okay, so let me see what we can get rid of. Okay, so that's done. That's done. I'm looking here, junk, 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 junk. These are basically all the spent parts. The fairing, the cover. Okay, so all this can go. The first stage can probably go, but we'll leave it. The boosters can go because they're now on the ground. In fact, we'll just delete those as well. We'll get rid of the first stage too. That's the big stage so all we're left with is the little piece of Falcon Heavy that's still attached to the XR2, and we need that for now. Okay, that should be what we need, so let's save that. And since we made a change here, you'll notice if I come into this directory, we don't have that number 5, so I've got to exit, restart orbiter. Now if I go back to that directory, ride to orbit complete. Now let's quickly just switch to the XR2 and verify that we do have our TransX plan over here, and we do. So let's go back to the Falcon Heavy, and we'll separate the Falcon Heavy from the XR2 with Shift N. At least no, it's Shift P. There we go. Now, whenever we are done with this part, we can go in and delete that out of the scenario as well if we like. Though I don't know if that piece necessarily causes any problems, but it's always a good idea to delete all the SpaceX stuff you don't need, because this add-on is very unstable, it seems. Okay, so let's select the XR2. Now we're in pretty comfortable territory. This would be not much different than if we did a regular ascent in the XR2. We're now in orbit. So first thing we want to do is open that radiator. Okay, AP is online. Extend the radiator. Bit of 10x to speed up that animation. Let's go to the larger MFDs. Let's quickly take a look at burn time calculator. And remember, we have 3350 of fuel in the one of the payloads, plus 804 of RCS. I should have that number memorized by now. 3350 plus 804. Wait a minute. 3350 plus 804 is 4154. So we have a total of 4,886 meters per second. And one thing you'll notice too is that our engine ISP is now showing that it's 13.94, whereas when we were still sitting on the ground, our engine ISP was showing that it was like 11 point something. And that's basically how efficient the engines are, and they're more efficient when you're in the vacuum of space because there's no, there's no atmosphere. So we have 4,886 meters per second, and according to TransX, we need, ouch, more than I thought. We need 4,000 meters a second to do the burn. That seems awfully high. It seems about 300 meters per second higher than it should be. I hope we have enough fuel to complete the mission. So that's not going to leave us a lot of extra. That's only a surplus of 800 meters a second. I'm not sure how I was so far off on that. At any rate, let's do a little bit of orbital maintenance here. Bring up TransX over here. And we'll go to View. Eject orientation will kind of swing this. We'll swing our line around to see if we need to do any adjustments here.
Rotation.
I'm going to roll over to go prograde.
Translation.
And we're going to see if we can just do a little bit with the translation to bring this relative inclination down a little more. Get that lined up again. And that's good enough. Okay. We don't necessarily have to worry about orbit circularization. Our eject point is over here. How are we doing on time? We're at 22 minutes for this part of the video. Just give me a moment to think. I want to set up a maneuver here, and that's gonna be really involved, or it's gonna be fairly involved. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here at this part. We've got everything, we've got ourselves up into orbit finally, after the first failure. And then when we pick up in the next part, we'll set up TransX. We'll set up a TransX maneuver for going out to Venus. And when we do that, and one of the main reasons we want to do that is because if you look over here in stage 2 in the eject plan, our eject date was set for 7470, and we're not going to be at 7470 when we get over to that point. Of course, one option would be to go around the planet a few times, and that might not be a bad idea to get closer to that eject point or that eject date. But I think what we'll do instead is just set up a maneuver, and when we do that, since the time is going to be different by a bit, maybe a quarter of a day, or actually more than that, it's going to be more than a half a day of difference, and that's going to be pretty significant. So setting up that maneuver is going to be pretty involved, so we'll save that for the next part of the video. Hopefully you're able to follow everything I'm doing here. I realize that this is a bit cumbersome, having to jump around between vessels and do the scenario editing and stuff. It's it's just the way it is for this. When you get involved with some of these add-ons that don't really mesh together seamlessly like you would hope that they would. So it kind of takes away from the experience a little bit when you have to jump in and out of orbiter and do editing. But once we're basically done with all that stuff, and we're going to be underway here shortly. So any questions, leave them down below, and I'll see you in the next part.